Well, I'm a bit late getting to do this tonight. What I'm going to talk about tonight is something that come up because of something I've been doing over the last couple of days. I've got a ton of photographs stored away that I've been wanting to have a look through and get sorted out for some time. And so I decided to do it start on it a couple of days ago, and I was having a bit of a chuckle to myself as I was coming across a lot of the photos. Now, some of the photos I've popped aside and got ready to post on here. They're ones of over the years when from when I was a little kid. There was always this thing about going off to fancy dress parties and getting all dressed up in costumes and things like that. And it's something I've done quite a lot over the years. And so what I did, I got a few of these photos out that I could find and just put them aside here, and just thought about the little stories that were behind them all. Now, when I was a little kid, my mum used to make a lot of our little, fancy dress costumes. And I remember the first one, my earliest one that I can remember, was going dressed up as a daffodil. Now, Mum made this costume and I just loved it. And I don't think I even wanted to take it off at the end. But yes, I was dressed up as a little daffodil. And apparently it was quite cute. It showed off the skill of my mum sewing back in the 1950s. But yeah, that was the first one that I can remember. Now, following on from that, I remember she made a little Indian costume for me, and it was made out of sacking, and she made a little pouch thing on the back that she had a little doll that she put inside it, and she had a little headband that she made to go on the head of this little doll. And I always remember walking around this, when we went to this little party, walking around all night, and people kept coming up to me, giving me the little headband that kept falling off the doll. And Mum said that she should have glued it on or done something, but she thought it would stick, but it didn't. And I just have these memories of people coming up and saying, "Is this yours?" And it was a little plaited hat or band made out of string or something similar to what I've got on in the photo. But yeah, that was one of the ones I remember when I was a kid. Now, I remember a later one. I was going to be getting dressed up as a witch, and I'd got this costume, and I was so looking forward to going to this fancy dress ball, they called them. And I was so looking forward to going to this party, and had this witch's costume. Now, it wasn't one that Mum had made. It was one that she hired for me. And I thought I looked hilarious in it. Well, at the particular time, there was a bout of mumps going around the school. And I think my sister got the mumps first. She got it on one side of her face, down under here. And then my brother followed. He got it on the other side. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, "Oh, I feel a bit puffy around the face." And I looked in the mirror, and my face was out like a bullfrog. I'd come up on both sides. It was just huge. And I remember going into Mum and Dad's bedroom and saying, "It's all right if I go to the party tomorrow, isn't it?" And Mum says, "Why? What's going on?" And I turned the light on, and she took one look at me. And she said, "No, you're not going looking like that." So yes, I was the one that got the mumps on both sides. And of course then I wasn't able to go to the fancy dress ball dressed up as a witch. However, I got my revenge many, many years later with different jobs that I've had. Every time it would come Christmas or something like that, it was like, you'd have your Christmas party and say, "Okay, let's all do fancy dress. What are we going to do this year?" And I can't remember what the particular theme was this year, but we were to go in fancy dress. So I got myself all dressed up as a witch. And I had an old walking stick made out of a piece of branch that had come out of the bush out the back, and And it was really, really quite funny. And I remember walking into the office on my own, because we had the party at the office. And I walked in on my own on this walking stick, and everyone's saying, "Who's that? Who is that?" They couldn't make out who it was until my partner walked in behind me, and they said, "Oh, it's June, look at her." But the funniest thing was, on that particular night, my partner at the time decided he was going to go dressed up as an Arab sheik. And he had sort of a white costume on, and he had one of those things on his head with the radiator thing hose round the top. It looked really quite the part because he had a beard and, quite a close shaved beard. It looked quite the part, actually. And we had to come into town. We drove into town from out in the country where we were living at the time. And he had to call in and get some petrol. Well, if you see him pulling up at a service station and getting out the car in this Arab's costume and asking the guy if he'd just fill it up with petrol, and the guy just sort of looked at him, and then he looked in the car at me, and here's me dressed up like a witch. Well, I think that guy must have decided he was going to go home early that night, because I think it was all a bit too much for him. So that was my little time I got to get dressed up as a witch. But that was quite funny. And then there was a time I got dressed up as a bride. Let me have a look. Oh no, that's wrong. That was my wedding. I really was a bride in that one. Okay. Then another time we had another work do, and I think the theme of it was we had to dress up back in time. And I got dressed up, I think what I was supposed to be was an Egyptian something or other. I'm not really quite sure what it was. And I remember my partner, he got dressed up as a little schoolboy. And he got dressed up like that guy out of AC/DC with his little school bag and his socks and his shorts. And he sort of looked like that guy out of AC/DC that goes across the stage playing his guitar in his school uniform. But yeah, that was another time. That was really quite fun. Then later on we had one, it was a spooky one. We had to get dressed up as something spooky. And I got dressed up as Morticia. And there's a photo of me looking like Morticia. And my partner, he got dressed up as a werewolf. And of course, as I said, he had a beard, and he just managed to get these gloves with hair on the back of them, and I can't remember. But he really looked the part. He looked like a werewolf. But yeah, that's me. And I think I had a black wig on and got myself all dressed up as Morticia. Now, there was quite a few others that we had during the years, but I've never ever, I haven't got photos, or I haven't located photos of them. But I remember one in particular, and around about the mid 1980s, I think, or to late 1980s, we had an incident here in Auckland, in New Zealand. The Rainbow Warrior protest ship was in harbour here. It was in the harbour. And there was a French couple that came out, and they sabotaged it, and they blew up the boat. And one of the guys, I think he was the radio operator or something like that, he happened to still be on the ship while it was in harbour, and he was actually killed. And they managed to get these two. They picked them up somewhere around the country, and they ended up in prison for a bit, and then they were deported back to France. But yeah, that was the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior. Sort of always had a sort of an important part in history here. So anyway, one day we had another work party, and the theme was when the ship goes down. So of course, a lot of people got dressed up in aluminium foil space suits, and like as when the ship, the airship or the spaceship came down. But no, not me and my partner. We got dressed up in, we had black tops, black skivvy tops, black pants, and black gloves, and our faces were all covered in black, whatever it was that we used, and a hat on, and we were all just all black, and round our waists we had a belt. We both had a belt. And my partner had gone out and he'd bought a broom handle. Now he got the broom handle and he cut it up into about 6 pieces and painted them red, and got a bit of string and hammered into the end of them, looking like little sticks of dynamite. And so we walked into this party all dressed up in black with our faces masked, with these belts on, with these strings of these sticks of dynamite in the belt. And it was when the ship went down, and it was sort of round, it was a wee while after the Rainbow Warrior was sunk, but not too long. Probably wasn't the right thing to do at the time. And everyone sort of looked sideways at us, and they could see, you know, it was a bit of a joke. But yeah, sometimes when you do costumes, you don't quite do them at the appropriate time. But that one was always good. I think I've got photos of that, but I couldn't find them, couldn't locate them. So yeah, that's some of the fancy dresses that me and my partners have had over the years. But just before I go, I just want to put a photo in here. My granddaughter is quite sort of arty-farty, and she's all, oh, go away, cat. And she's always drawing and using, you know, makeup and one thing and another. And one night she was in the room there, and it was when she was staying here with me at the time, and she came out and she had painted the back of her hand. She'd painted a face, which is a separate photo I've got, but I haven't put it on here. But she'd painted the back of her hand. And then she got a hand and she put it up. I think this is how she's got it, something like this, on her face. But you'll see the photo that she's put, that I'll put up here. And this was just some of her talent, some of the things that she used to do. Got quite a few little bits and pieces of things that she used to do, but this was just one in particular. She was only, God, what was she, about 17 or 18, I think, when she did this. But yeah, this is one of the things, and I always wished I'd had her here doing my makeup when I was getting dressed up for these costume parties. She did do a little bit of a couple of stints at when the shops would have sale days, and the shops would all have sales on, and they'd have all stock out on the footpath and that. And they used to have people there painting kids' faces, and you could, you know, get the kid's face painted with an animal or something like that. And she did a bit of that. She did that a couple of times. But yeah, she was quite arty. But when I saw this photo today, I thought, oh, I'll put that one up too. So yeah, that was my granddaughter and her painting her hand, and she really looked quite cute. So anyway, that's my little bit for the day. I've still got a lot of photos to check through, so I hope I don't find any more. But that's me for the day, and I hope you've enjoyed this, got a bit of a laugh out of it. And hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure. I've got visitors coming tomorrow, so it might sort of upset my plans a wee bit. But if it's not tomorrow, hopefully I'll get one out on Sunday anyway. So in the meantime, that's me. And if you've liked this, if you like this video, if you would like to give it a thumbs up and share, comment, or even subscribe to my channel, I would most appreciate it. Thank you. So that's me. So take care, everybody. Stay safe, and I hopefully see you tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be the next day. Okay then. Bye-bye.